What is up, everybody? Starting on a pretty big project today. Thought this would make a great series of videos on fixing up your boat, and I don't mean just washing it and cleaning it up. I mean tearing it down and completely rebuilding a lot of it. I'm not doing stringers or anything crazy and floor in this boat, but I am going to be doing paint, swim platform, trolling motor, removing bow rails, fiberglass work, paint, cushions, upholstery, all kinds of stuff. So check out this series of videos. There's gonna be quite a few of them, but I think you guys will find this informative and entertaining. So here's our project boat. This is gonna be our project boat that we're gonna be working on. It's an 18 Seahawk. It's an older boat. It's a great boat. I absolutely love this platform. We're gonna be redoing the teak. We're gonna be redoing the cushions, rewiring everything, new gas tank, new batteries. We're going to be pulling this bow rail off, taking all these little pieces like this off, getting rid of these from the old Bimini that the guy had on it before me. Just going to really clean this thing up and get it to 1000%, and that way for many years to come she'll be very, very seaworthy. All right, so for you guys that don't know, or that do know me, my garage was an absolute train wreck. Probably seen it in past videos. Ta-da! Tons of room now. Tons of room. I spent 2 days cleaning this garage for this. You want to have a covered workspace if possible. So this is going to be the workshop for building out the boat. It's almost April 1st. Easter's tomorrow. And really I should have had this boat done by now, but just getting the time on my schedule to do this when I can. So we're gonna try to fly through this in about 3 weeks time, and when it's done this thing should look like a brand new boat. So here's your last look at what it looks like before. All right, so our first order of business was removing this janky little swim platform. You can tell it's really old. It's got barnacles and stuff growing on it on the underside. But what you'll see, and you'll find this a lot of times with a boat, is when you go to take these things off, these screws that he used to screw up here, bolts down here, the bolts came out just fine. I always recommend using bolts. Don't ever use a Phillips head screw, because you can see that broke off. So now we're gonna have to tap and drill that, tap it, try to pull that out with a screw extractor. If not, we're just going to drill it out, and you can see these are pretty good sized holes right through your transom. So you always want to make sure, and they put silicone around these, or 5200 or something. It looks like just plain old silicone, which maybe wasn't the best bet there, but you want to make sure you really seal around these holes, because this is a direct penetration to your transom, and these kinds of things is what will rot your transom out if you don't seal them properly. Step one, done Dundee. 2 big upgrades to turn this from an already fish catching machine to a real fish catching machine. We're going to be adding the Helix 8 Humminbird fish finder to this guy, and we're also going to be pairing it to an iPilot trolling motor, 80-pound thrust, 24 volt, 60-inch shaft length. I'll tell you a crazy story about this trolling motor when we get to that part. That'll be later on in our video series, but this is really what's going to turn this into a wreck fishing machine out in the bay, flats fishing machine. When you have both of these pieces of equipment, you can link them together, and you can actually do like autopilot almost with it. You can draw routes on your chart plotter, and it will talk to your fish finder and drive that for you, so that you can really focus on fishing the flats. You can set a course and just scout for fish like trout, stuff like that, and then once you find them, you can hit that spot lock and hang on them without having to drop anchors or stick pole anchors in the mud. Also on the agenda, we've got LED underlighting to go under the gunnels, so at nighttime you can see what you're doing without bright lights on your face. It just reflects down onto the floor, so it doesn't blind you when you have them on. It's just the reflection of the light underneath the gunnel to give you some light to tie those fishing lures and things like that when you're out there fishing at nighttime. The wiring on this boat is very minimal and pretty crusty. So I've bought a new switch panel here that's going to tie everything together. It's also going to give me a cigarette outlet for a charger, and also it's got USB plugs right here in the top, 2 of them. And you can't do any wiring unless you got the wire. So I bought 100 feet of, this is very important when you're doing boat wiring, tinned wire. This is marine grade wire. Instead of just plain copper that likes to corrode, this is covered in tin. So it keeps the wire, it's like silver coating that you see on some of the wire in marine boats. And that will help your wire last much longer and just kind of hold up to the elements of being on a saltwater boat. So we got our tin wire and also have a switch panel here. First step to getting this thing in the garage is going to be taking off this handrail and this windshield so that we can clear that garage door on the way in. And we'll put that back on after we've got everything painted, all these holes patched in this console. I mean, you can see that there was plenty of gauges in it at one time, but we're going to clean all this nonsense up. All right, bow rail off, windshield off, handrail off. We're gonna try to get this thing in the garage and see if she'll fit. It's gonna be tight. All right, guys, we did it. It fit, just barely. We got her in here cockeyed, kind of brought her in and then brought it in diagonal and pushed the tongue over. We got about, if this was a 20-foot boat, this would never be happening. There it is. The project begins. All right, so now begins just tearing down the boat. To paint it and do it right, you gotta take a lot of your trim off. This boat has the old school aluminum trim along it that is riveted. So I gotta go behind this and drill every rivet and take all these off, and we're gonna put back some nice rubber trim that does not require rivets or screw holes. But so that's the next step. Go all the way around the whole boat and get this cap trim off of it. All right, progress time. About 4 hours in. We got the rub rail all the way off, all the way around on the inside. Got the cooler seat out. Got all the gauges that weren't being used pulled out. The fun part's gonna be replacing all those, or fixing all those holes. Looking at the wiring for the shifter and the steering and all that, I think what I'm gonna opt to do, rather than get that crazy with it, is to pick this console up and set it on some 2x4 blocks, maybe 4x4 blocks, and work them as necessary. And then that will let me not have to take the console completely out of the boat. But yeah, she's coming along. I'm just running around with a screwdriver. We took the stern light plug off. That thing was wrecked. It's just a lot of pulling screws out, ripping stuff out. That's the fun part. Putting it all back is gonna, and fixing it up is gonna where a lot of the work's gonna come into factor. So that's where we're at so far. She's getting there. So this boat right here has years of bottom paint on it. So the best way to tackle this is to get yourself one of these extra wide scrapers and just go to town on getting all the heavy stuff off first. Make sure you follow the edge. I'm working straight down to follow the contour of the boat, because if not, you'll put gouges in it with the corners of your blade. So you just want to go straight down and just work your way down. And as you can see, that is taking off. Look at all that on the ground right there. Bunch of chunks. I mean, it's just knocking this stuff off. Helps out big time before you start trying to sand on it, because if you try to just sand all this off, it's going to take you years and it's going to make a giant mess. So by doing this takes a lot of the work out of it. Then you can come back and do either wire wheel. You know, some people say use a green scrubby. Some people, you know, you can soda blast it. You can power wash it. You can do all kinds of stuff to get the rust off. But the key is knock all the heavy chunky stuff off with one of these first. All right, guys, we are back at it again for day 2 on the boat remodel. Tonight's mission, we've drawn all of our holes for our speakers. for our radio, for our gauge panel, cup holder on the top, a little bit of everything. We're going to be putting some rod holders back here in the corners. You can see that. So the next mission here is, before we even start sweeping this thing out, really cleaning out the bottom, we're just going to do all of our cutting tonight. Get these things all cut out. And then we've stood the console up, verified we had enough cable. You always want to check that first. Make sure you got enough cable. And if you can pick this thing up. We can work under it. We can get the floor cleaned out. We can paint the floor without having to remove all of our steering cables and wiring harness and all that nonsense. So that's kind of the thought process here. And then we routed out anywhere there was a crack. We've routed those out to patch them up. So that's about how far we've made it so far today. It is about 12 o'clock at night. Been at it for about 5 hours. Don't judge me on all the Modellas laying around here. But console's up. Got the hole cut out for the radio. Hole cut out for the fuse panel. We got the hole cut out on top for the cup holder. Got our speaker holes chopped. And what else? Man, just been plugging away, grinding holes. We got the rod holders cut in the back here. So a couple tips around that. It's a 2 1/4 hole saw, and make sure you cut them at an angle to drop your rod holders in at the matching angle that you're using, because at 2 1/4 it's a pretty tight fit. So if you do it just straight down and you have an angled rod holder, it will not work. So make sure you get that cut at an angle. And other than that, I've just gone around, you can see, just hollowing out holes that I'm going to be filling, making nice cone shapes to where when you fill them, it's got something to fill into. And tomorrow I'll be doing some glass work. I dug out a bunch of glass mat, some glass there, some tape, and a bunch of other good stuff. That's 4-inch tape, a bunch of stuff I had left over from the Downeaster that I built. And so this is going to be not as nearly expensive as it would be if I had to buy all that stuff. I probably got $200 worth of fiberglass supplies. So stick around. That'll be the next little dealio. All right, progress report after a couple days work. As you can see, started filling our holes and finally sanding those out. They looked like that originally, but you build them up, you sand them down nice and flush all the way around the boat. There you go. No more bow rail. All the holes are filled for that. And just getting to it on this console. And that heinous spot over there. Rocking and rolling, got everything pulled out. Got the speakers cut in the side of the console, got the steering wheel off. I decided I'm gonna put hydraulic steering on this thing. While I got it all apart, I might as well do it. The steering's a little stiff on the boat. And if you're gonna put this much money into fixing the boat up, you might as well yank the steering wheel off. Quick tip on that. Steering wheels have a tapered shaft where the steering wheel sits on the helm. So to get them off, the way we found it worked best was you put the nut back on the end of it, just on the tip of it, so you don't jack it up when you hit it, and you smack it with a hammer, and have your friends pulling on the steering wheel at the same time, and it should jar it enough to pop right off there. And that's what we did yesterday. Well, there you go. That's where we're at right now. I'm about to get at it. It's 7 o'clock. I'll probably work till 1 o'clock in the morning tonight doing sanding, trying to get this thing ready for tipping, rolling the paint sometime maybe Sunday. Try to get this thing back on the water because the drummer's starting to get here and I don't want to miss out. Quick tip for pouring your epoxy. If you need really small batches, a kid's measuring cup for medicine works really well to do just little tiny pours. And for like filling things like this hole right here and the side of this where the seat post used to tie in, I just mixed up like 20 milliliters of this stuff and didn't waste any, and filled that. and filled the drain plug on this cooler seat because I use it for dry storage, so no need for a plug in it. But there you have it, quick and easy. All right, so it's like day 10 maybe, and man, I've been hard at work till like 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning some nights, almost every night, and burning the candle wick thin. But lots of progress. Check this out. So last time I was down to, getting everything sanded down, looking decent. Now we've got second coat of paint on the seat, second coat of paint on the console, and that thing is like mirror finish. I don't know if you can see that in the camera or not, but that is like, man, it is beautiful. This is all rolling tip. And look at the inside of the boat. She is looking fresh. I am so stoked about this color. I hope it conveys the actual color on camera, because it's, sometimes it's hard to capture that. But this color blue, it's called Whaler Blue, and it's by Total Boat. And it's only like $130 a gallon. It's a mono paint. It's a monopoxy polyester. And so it goes on really easy and thick, and it's a good, just like candy coating hard shell that kind of coats the inside of your boat. Much needed. Old paint job was garbage. In between coats, when I'm doing this console right here, in between those coats, I'm using just some regular old Ace Hardware 400 grit sandpaper, wet sandpaper. I'm not wet sanding, but it's the waterproof 400 superfine. And this stuff just knocks down, when you do tip and roll, it knocks down the high edges that get left behind sometimes. So like if there's any sort of blemish, you can kind of sand those out with a 400 grit sandpaper. They recommend 220 from Total Boat, but I found, to me, that's just a lot of grit. So I went with 400. It takes a little more work, but it does a good job really getting just the high spots. And when you go back with a second coat, it just mirror finishes on it. And I'm just going to do that for like 4 coats, I think, on the white. And I'm probably going to do 2 coats in the floor of the boat. And that's probably it for the inside of the floor and the console and the seat. So the plan is do the console, do the box, do the base, all the white stuff. And then, except for this, then do the floor at the same time. That way when that's done, that'll be done. And then I can put the console on the floor and I can paint this top cap. And then after that, she goes out the door and gets a bottom scraping in the yard where I can actually work on it. And then it's ready for outside paint. And this is the same color that the outside's going to be. And it is absolutely a beautiful, beautiful color. I mean, I'm in love with it. This is going to look so good with some brown seats, like some tan, sand-colored seats. And I just can't imagine with a nice trolling motor and fish finder on this thing, it's just going to be, oh man, this thing's going to be right. What's up, everybody? It's me. And we're back at it again, working on the Seahawk 18. You can see she's coming along beautifully. Today I was just going to give you a little short video on tipping and rolling. Some tips on how to tip and roll. It's actually roll and tip. I'm sure if Doug watches this, he'll get a kick out of that, because I always say tip and roll, but it's actually rolling followed by tipping. What is roll and tipping, you ask? It's where you paint with a brush. That's your tipper. And this would obviously be a roller. So when you're working with epoxy paints, you're going to use these foam rollers that are very, very well suited for epoxies. They don't break down. They don't leave lint behind. You're going to want something like that. Second, you need a nice quality brush. Don't buy the cheapest brush you can find. So I bought a pretty decent brush, about 20 bucks at Lowe's. Got my roller. Got my foam rollers to go with it, and get yourself some disposable paint trays, because you're going to be doing a lot of painting. I try to use 1 tray per color, and I try to, if I you know, if it's still wet in the tray, I use a brand new tray. You never want to cross-contaminate and have maybe skin from other applications in there, and then put that on there and get that skin on your boat. So you can see this hull turned out amazingly shiny, just beautiful looking, to be honest with you. I don't know if it shows up as well on camera as it does in person, but it looks phenomenal. And the way I did this was with tip and roll. All right, so what is tipping and rolling? Well, rolling is rolling, obviously, and tipping is following along behind it and knocking the high spots out with your brush. So I'm not gonna do this actual painting on camera, because you should have two people to do this. You should have a roller and a tipper. You should not be doing them both yourself unless you've done this before, and you can be very quick about this. And then even then, sometimes you gotta dip your brush in just a little bit of thinner and use that to get the brush enough to flow. But for this purpose, I'm just going to be showing you exactly kind of the process here. Let me straighten this camera out for you guys so you can see the side of the boat. All right, so my process, you can go however you want to do this, but you just need to alternate the directions. Me, I always do north to south with the roller, east to west with your tipping. So you're going to roll a section off, a manageable size. You don't want to do the whole side of the boat and try to go back. The goal is to roll a section, and then, so I'm rolling north-south, and then I'm going to brush east to west. And what I'm doing with that is I roll, I do about 3 feet a section, and then you come back and you just brush gently the strokes out. You're not going to wet your brush. You can the very first time you use it if you want to, but I find that if you just dab it in just a tiny bit of thinner, it wets it enough to do what you need to do. You're not using this to paint, you're just using this to flow the paint. So you really don't want paint on your brush except for what you pick up off the boat. So you brush, you roll, and then you just brush the high spots out of that. And that's all there is to it, guys. I wish I could tell you there's a whole lot more tips and tricks to it, but really, that's about all you need to know to do this. Don't be scared if you do it, and the worst thing that can happen is, as long as your paint's mixed well and it hardens properly, worst thing that can happen is you may have some drips in there. Again, if you're brushing behind yourself and you're not leaving a ton of extra paint on the hull, you should not have to deal with that. But if you're going too heavy with your coats, you will see drip runs. If you run into that, all you got to do is take like some 400 grit sandpaper and sand out those drips. Sand them back flush and hit it again on your next coat. It leaves room for error. You know, you can go back and you can always fix it. It's just paint. So don't be afraid to try this at home. I find this technique way easier than me taping everything off and spraying it, especially in my garage. This is not a spray friendly garage. I don't have a spray booth. If you want to do this in your home, in your garage, you don't have everything taped off, or you just don't have the room for it, tip and rolling is kind of the way to go there. All right, check in progress. Making serious progress. So, tip and rolled the white, 3 coats now on the top cap, 2 coats on the hull. Look how beautiful that looks. Man, that's a mirror finish. 4 coats on the console, 3 coats on this. That's the base for the seat, and then that's the cooler seat. That's also got 3 coats. So those both are done. They look really good. Console's looking done. That's looking great. Top cap, we've done it all. I moved these 2x4s so that when I painted, I didn't paint around the same spot each time. So what I did was painted once, let it dry, moved it over about 6 inches, painted where they were previously, just alternated that process. Once I'm done, I'll actually be putting this console on the floor, removing these, and then filling from, say, like here to about here, just doing a couple extra coats to blend it and fair all that in so that you don't see that there was different layers in here and things of that nature. But first thing we got to do, tonight's project, is I've taped all the way around the hull of this floor, and we're going to be doing a sand color in the floor of this boat to match our cushions and match the seadek that's going on the front. I think this is going to be gorgeous with this blue and this white and the contrast of the sand color. I think it's going to be absolutely amazing. So to do that, you'll see I used 1.5 inch painter's tape. Put a good layer, a good straight line all the way around the whole boat. You can see it coming around. And then we're just gonna paint this floor. It's an easy process. You can't really mess up on floors. You're just gonna roll this out. There's probably not a lot of tipping involved in this. And we're just gonna fill this in with the sand color and start getting that process going so that we can set this console down. We're gonna do 2 coats on this floor. We've already done 2 coats on the sides, and we followed that up by only doing the 3rd coat just inside of the edge of the floor, so that, because we're going to be painting all this, we didn't want to waste a whole 3rd coat on the rest of this floor. So that's our next step right now. I'm going to go ahead and break out this beige sandy color and get that installed on here, and we'll see what it looks like. All right, big update, guys. Undergunnel lighting is done. Radio is in. Switch panel's in. Everything's wired completely. Means I got tunes now. Been jamming to reggae all night on the stereo. It sounds amazing. That's playing through 4-inch Rockford speakers on the side, 6-inch Bose in the front, or maybe 6.5s, and a nice fish finder. Gauges are in. Key switches hooked back up. Shifters in. All new wires pulled through the tube here. Hydraulic lines have been pulled through. Next up is to hide all of these wires and do cable management, make it all look pretty, and then set up the hydraulic steering, because that's the final piece of this puzzle. So there you have it, guys. Again, hide the wires. You won't see those. But all in all, she's looking beautiful, guys. I cannot wait to fish. Fish are starting to really get chewing, and this boat's going to be popping out of here just in time if I can get it done in the next week or so. All right, guys, super excited. This is it. We're getting real close now. Check this out. Lots of progress since the last clip. We got brand new hydraulic steering, seadek on top all the way around, and all the stepping locations. All the hardware's installed. We added these new rod holders in the back for chumming right off the chum pot. This is pretty cool. Added these cleats right here, or these chases right here for your rope, so that your pole anchor doesn't tear up the paint, and more importantly, your chum pot can run through that as well. seadek, rod holders, hydraulic helm, nice Humminbird Helix 8, stereos in, fuse panels in. I mean, look at this thing, dude. Absolutely gorgeous. New seat cushions. Those turned out great. seadek on the bow. Got the cleats back on the bow. Got the cleat in the middle. All I'm waiting for is the front navigation light. We're going to paint the outside blue one more coat. Put the rub rail back on. Bottom paint it. And we're going to send this thing after some fish, guys. Man, I can't tell you how excited I am for this. This thing is going to be a fishing machine. All right, guys. Long couple days, but calling it early tonight. Me and Doug just left out of here. Man, that dude's been a huge help. Helped me get the trolling motor mounted, so check that bad boy out. We got the 80 Terrova, and got that mounted tonight. Got the wires all pulled through. Bow cleats officially on. Got the console bolted in. Got that caulked underneath that. Caulked around the tubes so that water doesn't run around those. Got the back hatch in. Just rocking and rolling, guys. Rocking and rolling. It is on the final steps now. I'm hoping to have it on the water by Sunday. I'll be out of town for the next 3 days. I got Friday evening to work on it, and maybe I can get it out by Sunday. We'll see. Anyway, I'll show you the next update when it comes. So, last few finishing touches. We are here at the finish line, and we've actually crossed it. You just don't know it yet. We've got the seat and the fish box and the cooler seat that I've converted to storage, all ready to go. They need one more coat of paint because on my last coat, I stirred up a bunch of stuff in here and got dust on them. And so I have to recoat those one more time. I sanded them, got all the little blemishes out. Gonna give them one more good fresh coat just to make them look really fresh. And the last other thing I have to do is the windshield. So that's the old one, pretty busted up and cracked up. And this is a brand new one that Ashley's father made for me. He works in a glass shop, so he was able to make me a brand new windshield. So that's the last two things we got to do. Give you a quick tour of where we're at on the boat, because this thing is looking right, guys. Brand new teak swim platform, double step, easy to get it in and out with the kids, even in a little bit deeper water. All new hardware, some added hardware so that we can put the pole anchor out and not scuff the boat up. Hydraulic steering, seadek all the way around, new rod holders, a radio, a fish finder. You'd think I was a caveman before this. And 80-pound thrust trolling motor. And this right here is really important. Get yourself a trolling motor bracket. I was out in two foot seas doing a little slapping through some chopping, and this thing saved the day. This thing does not move at all, and with these longer shaft lengths, these things will just bounce up and down and just wear out the hinges in these things. So get a brace, really cheap. It's probably 40 bucks, 50 bucks, but everything's done. Numbers on the boat, got my stickers in, good to go. Let's step back and take one more beautiful look at this thing.